In 1989, Konami released maybe the greatest arcade video game ever made. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game set standards for coin-depositing button mashers that may not have been seen since the days of Pac-Man. While the first video game released on the NES was a bug-infested nightmare that challenged gamers in all the wrong ways and gave literal meaning to the term damn level, the arcade version was everything anyone could have asked for in a Ninja Turtles video game. A beat-em-up style for up to 4 players featuring all the characters we knew and loved with a storyline that totally felt like it could have been an episode of the original cartoon. Oh, it was challenging on its own merits, and you were gonna spend a lot of quarters to complete it. But the easy-to-learn gameplay and graphics that still hold up today made it a beloved classic from the start. Even the eventual port of the game to the NES, despite its 8-bit limitations, kept enough charm to carve its own niche into gaming lore. So, naturally, someone was going to look at the Ninja Turtles arcade game and say, hey, let's do that again, but with characters the audience would never suspect. No, that one actually made sense. I'm talking about... Oh, yes. This was a thing. Now, in hindsight, this had some logic to it. Turtle Mania and Simpson Mania both hit their apex at around the same time. In the late 80s and early 90s, kids were driving adults crazy by constantly saying either turtle power or don't have a cow, man. And hey, there have been many other Simpsons video games released over the years. Heck, Bart vs. the Space Mutants probably had more anger-inducing difficulty than that first TMNT game, and even the console games eventually got good, as Simpsons Road Rage and Simpsons Hit and Run remain fan favorites. But trust me, this was special. How do you take something like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and take that beat-em-up style and apply it to something like The Simpsons? Prepare yourself for ultimate insanity as we finally show you how. So the setup for the game is this. The Simpson family seems to be just biding their time in Springfield when they literally run into a jewel heist being pulled off by Mr. Smithers? And yeah, that's not just some Smithers look-alike, as we'll eventually see. The collision causes the diamond he's taking to fall into Maggie's mouth, so naturally Smithers decides the best response is to take off with the baby in broad daylight. Yeah, it was probably Wiggum's donut break at this time. So the object of the game is to chase down Smithers and rescue the youngest Simpson. All the while, you're constantly having to beat up this game's equivalent of the foot soldiers, a bunch of gangster knockoffs that must have come from the cloning machine from the return of Maxwell Smart. Damn it, I'm gonna have to review that thing now that I finally brought it up, right? At the very least, most of the player characters do have some type of weapon to do battle with, though most of them will make you never again ridicule Princess Peach and her frying pan. Bart naturally has his skateboard, Lisa uses a jump rope, and Marge just happens to have a vacuum cleaner on her person. What, were they going vacuum cleaner shopping at the time? By comparison, Homer comes off as the real badass here, as he just uses fists flying everywhere. Now, there are some variances between the gameplay here and with the Ninja Turtles. Here, there are a number of items you can pick up and use as throwing weapons, including at one point even throwing a freaking police car! You can even throw Snowball 2 and Santa's Little Helper at the bad guys. Oh, don't tell PETA about this game, they'll never shut up. You can also have 2 PCs joined together in combo attacks that render them invincible so long as they're together. Which means you have even more incentive to have multiple players here than with the Turtles. I really love how Homer and Marge team up to pretty much create a human rolling boulder move. If there is one major disappointment in this game, it's the enemies. Particularly the boss characters. Look, part of me gets it. The show was only around 2 to 3 seasons old when this game came out, so a lot of the side characters we now know hadn't been fully established or even introduced in some cases. But you'd think they could still have a little more creativity. Your first boss battle is against Werner von Braun, one of the wrestlers seen in the episode Bart the Daredevil. But after him, there aren't a lot of recognizable characters until the final stage. You might now recognize the bear at the end of stage 5, but keep in mind, the episode where Homer confronts a bear, the fat and the furriest, didn't premiere until 2003. Almost like the game gave them the idea for the episode, not vice versa. For all of its flaws, Bart vs. the Space Mutants at least gave us Nelson Muntz, the Babysitter Bandit, and Sideshow Bob as boss villains. So there really wasn't that much of an excuse here. So you have to go through the multiple areas of Springfield and even into the dream world where you have to face Homer's bowling ball come to life. There, that's when the drugs really kicked in. And ultimately make it to the nuclear power plant, where of course you confront Smithers at the end, where he's armed with freaking bombs! Let's just ignore that the guy who would eventually be known for collecting Malibu Stacy dolls has here been turned into the freaking Unabomber. Is it really a good idea to be throwing explosives in a damn nuclear plant?
Nuclear. It's pronounced nuclear.
Shut up, Homer! So once you finally get Smithers to blow himself up, you are at last confronted by Mr. Burns in his own Iron Man suit. And oh boy, does he not play around! You thought taking on the Shredder and his clones was a challenge? Burns has about 4 different stages of needing to take out his super suit, like he's freaking Dracula at the end of Castlevania. Now I really wonder why the nerd never reviewed this game. So once you finally destroy Burns' suit, Maggie comes out and just gives Burns her pacifier like it's a peace offering. Aw, see, the old man was just cranky and needed a nap. And that's how the game ends, with the family heading home as the credits roll. Yeah, I'm sure Homer's fired for beating the crap out of his boss, but he'll get it back in a week. Do you know how much hiring a real safety inspector would cost? This game is so ridiculously insane that it's brilliant. The fact that it came out in the show's early years, when the Simpsons world still looked to have some level of logic, just makes it even better. This could have been the plot of the Simpsons movie, and it would have made just as much sense. In fact, whenever the show itself finally reaches its end, this ought to be the pilot for the final episode. It was released for numerous PC and game consoles, at least their online distributors, and most of those were discontinued in 2012, but newer arcade cabinet versions have also since been released and up for sale to the public. So there's no doubt people will find a way to keep having Homer Simpson beat up clone lackeys of Mr. Burns for years to come. A full collection of classic Simpsons video games released on Steam seems highly unlikely given how many distributors were in charge of each individual game, but we can still hope it will happen one day. After all, who wouldn't love to endure the beat-em-up style of the Simpsons arcade game and then try to help Bart and Lisa escape from Camp Deadly, right? Stay rowdy, my friends.